All right, what's up? Welcome back. We're here with another office hours where I'm going to talk today about what I would do if I had to hire a new employee in 14 days. And I mean, my first ever employee from start to finish, what I'd be doing each day so that in 2 weeks, you could have a new employee. So let's go. And I'm going to do it as if it was each day I was trying to tackle certain things. So let's start with the 14 days. So day one, I would actually, on day one, I would plot the course for the remaining 2 weeks. And I'd really ask myself, what problems am I solving for? I think that there's either an over hesitancy to hire your first employee, or there is a rush to do it to solve the wrong problems. And what I mean by that is if we're running a good business, right? In a perfect world, we want to be delegating down the things that we don't want to do or are not fantastic at doing. And we want to, as a business owner, I'm just going to assume we're a single owner business, and we're also a technician. So we are the licensed healthcare professional. We're the doctor, we're the surgeon, we're the nurse, we're doing the actual procedures. What we're trying to do is become more of the business owner, right? Doing the high level decision making of the business and less of the technician, the person that's going in and taking the blood pressure and doing the procedure every single day, day in and day out. So I think really the most common problem that we're really solving for is a lack of time, right? A lack of time in our ability to do the procedures. And what we're trying to do is delegate that down to other staff effectively so that we can do less of the procedures and more of the business, more of the vision, more of the execution and hiring of other staff. And so that's what I would figure out on day one. Okay, so we'll assume that we have a problem that needs to be met. Now we need to figure out, is this going to be a full-time, part-time employee, or is it going to be an independent contractor? And sometimes it might even be a virtual assistant where you'd watch one of my other videos or trainings and we would not be hiring an employee. But let's just make the assumption that we've done the analysis correctly. We either spoke to an attorney or we, read a nice blog and figured it out ourselves. And we figured out, we just cannot have this person as an independent contractor. There are too many factors that go against this. We are really controlling them. We're trying to build more of a team and less of a, little sectioned off series of small businesses. And we're just the nucleus. So we know this is an employee, part-time, full-time. So figuring that out. The other thing we want to figure out right off the bat is what's going to be the pay. So generally, I'm thinking about a salary range. We can get pretty creative if you talk to an attorney and you do it right. You can get pretty creative with commission-based and percentages potentially, and maybe a combination of salary to make a base minimum plus a legally structured incentivized system. When I see discussions like this online, I think, it's usually people who are not attorneys and they throw the baby out with the bathwater. So they heard some sort of advice, which may have been correct for their situation. And then they feel like they need to spread their knowledge all over Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, wherever they are. And generally they're incorrect. I mean, it's a really factually intensive and state-specific analysis on how you can compensate. But I would talk to either an attorney or CPA, somebody who knows what they're doing, to give you the maximum competitive advantage on what's actually available to do. And figure that out before you actually post the position. So similar to that, I would definitely reach out on day one to my accountant or CPA about them doing payroll, setting up state ID numbers, any sort of portals I would need. I would reach out on day one because I know they're going to take a little bit of time and it's going to take me a little bit of time to fill that out. I suppose if I was utilizing an attorney, I'd definitely reach out to them on day one. Okay, cool. Day two. So I would spend all of day two really defining the roles and responsibilities and writing a compelling job description, not just a boring job description that pops up and, looks like every other one, a compelling job description. You really want to sell the position. So when I write job descriptions, you can go look at my past ones. We really highlight the benefits and we also, throw in, I wouldn't say humor, but just like some smart, we're making them just stand out just a little bit. So if I'm reading it and I'm going really fast and I'm looking at a bunch of jobs a day, it just kind of has a little bit more of a personality to it. And I think it's a way to kind of showcase what kind of culture and personality you have as the business and business owner. And again, we're trying to sell the applicant. We're trying to get the best applicants possible, sift through them and pick the best one. It's not just I got to hit all the, the little dots and fill in the profile. But at the same time, another point here is we do want to have a clear and concise job description, and we want to highlight all the key responsibilities, the required skills, any sort of company culture, right? Putting that all on the listing. And so if your job's remote, say that it's remote. If it's primarily remote, but you got to come in person, say that. Any sort of the requirements, so that we don't get a bunch of people applying, and people who don't follow the actual requirements, we can just throw them right out right away. They should not even be coming into consideration, not really worthy of our time at all in terms of consideration if they didn't follow the rubric for getting in. Okay. Another one on that job description is we want to use keywords that candidates are likely to actually search for. So, if you have a website and a business, search engine optimization, SEO, very similar concept for the job posting. We want that to be forefront for, okay, what would I be searching if I was looking for this job? It's interesting because we've posted for paralegal positions, but we don't actually need paralegal experience. So it's a very interesting job post, because we're just trying to grab people with the right skill sets and potentially those who are looking to change careers. So we'll use very specific keywords in those job postings to attract a very specific type of job searcher. So something to keep in mind. All right, day 3, because he spent all of day 2 figuring out the job ad. Day 3, we're actually going to post it. And I'm spending a whole day doing this because there may be multiple places that we're posting it. You may be creating your account for the first time. I think easy ones to think of would be Indeed or LinkedIn, but I've seen success all over the place. If you have a website, if you have social media, I think it'd be worthy of advertising. I think good old-fashioned word of mouth, texting, emailing all of your close colleagues and friends, hey, I got this position open. And if you know anybody, getting some buzz going and making sure that people are aware that you're actually hiring. I mean, this is a big deal. I also think this is also a cool little mini marketing tactic, because you hiring is amazing. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that a small business owner hiring, especially for the first time, that's a really big deal. It's kind of like having your first kid. That'd be more exciting and more impactful, but still, it's a big deal for your business. It's like the little baby of your business. And so, and you're creating opportunities, you're creating jobs, you're helping the economy, you are creating impact on society. And so that's a big deal. I think it should be celebrated, and I think it should be advertised as such. Another place you could post is actual job boards that are specific to your industry. So if you're in the med spa industry, if you're a nurse, you might be posting on nurse groups, med spa groups, whether that's Facebook, LinkedIn, some other, association, assuming that we can post on there for free. Okay. Day 4. Now you posted, lo and behold, within 12 hours in the middle of the night, you already have a ton of applicants, and you're starting to review and screen applicants. I would say this would be days 4 through, we're on a really tight window on this 2 weeks. I'm not going to lie. That's a pretty quick turnaround to hire an employee, but let's just assume that we can be very efficient. We're not rushing, but we're being very efficient. So on day 4, we should already be reviewing and screening applications. The job post is still live. We're not taking that down yet, but we're going to start reviewing and screening applications. And what's interesting is that on day 4, we're going to build out that process, because I'm assuming that you're doing it for the first time, while we're actually starting to screen. Not ideal, right? There's certainly different ways you could do this, but I'm assuming you are a business owner doing this for the first time. So I'm just more realistic and practical than I think some of the other approaches out there. So we are going to screen these applicants. So we're screening resumes, cover letters, however you have identified that they can showcase that they meet the requirements. And this is just, I almost think of it as like a dating app. You're just swiping right or left. Did they actually communicate that they have the law degree? Have they actually gone to law school? I'm just talking like base level requirements that you put in the description. Do they live in Minnesota? No, they applied and they're from Hawaii. That does not work. There is some in-person component. So there is a top level just screening, right? That we need to get people out. That's going to, nowadays, post-pandemic, with all the remote job applications, a lot of that, I don't know what's happened in the industry, but I think there is just a lot of junk that comes through the door, and it needs to be swiped out. So that's process number 1. Then we're getting a little more sophisticated, right? You're deciding who you're going to spend your time actually interviewing, calling, what have you. And I think there should be multiple steps to an interview. It's not a one and done. This would also be a time to initiate, even on day 4 for those first good promising applicants, is to initiate background checks and reference checks, assuming it's allowed in your state and assuming that you have the appropriate authorization. You're just kind of getting ahead of stuff. That might take a little while to go through. And I'll put the rest on days 5 through 10, because all of this is on kind of a moving deadline. But day 5, I am absolutely, and maybe end of day 4, I am reaching out to just do a brief phone call with the promising candidates just to assess their initial fit and interest. It's kind of like a quick date, I guess. You're getting okay, they made it through the swipe. They meet the requirements, but now we're just going to check. It's like a little sniff test. It's like, okay, is this like a legitimate candidate? Do they actually look realistic in their terms of joining the company? This is not an interview. This is really just confirming, did we get all their information? Okay, you applied. Good. Now, if that goes good, at the end of that call, you're setting up a video interview. You could, in theory, do that phone via email as well. I don't like that. I want to hear their voice, make sure they're real, and you're already starting to learn some things about the candidate, the way that they've styled their communication to you, how quickly they respond, how formal they are they respectful of your time? Are they no-showing and canceling and rescheduling 40 times just to get on the first interview? Right? You can learn a lot. People say a lot without actually saying it, right? And so you're taking notes on all of this. This is all part of your interview. You're interviewing even when you're not interviewing. And once we get out that initial screening, let's move on to an actual second interview via video. Video, it's post-pandemic, very convenient if they are working another job, if they have kids, if they have pets, if they have stuff going on. I would love to do in person, but also if you don't have an in-person position, for starters, probably makes sense. They don't need to necessarily meet in person. And also it just takes a little more infrastructure to set that up. And we're on the 2-week timeline. Now, if you are doing an in-person, it's probably moving pretty quick from phone to video to in-person, probably in that order. But I would consider doing video and maybe second or third videos, just based on how the candidates are doing. Now, this takes a little bit of guts, and you need to be a little bit careful when you do this, but you can also do group interviews. Wouldn't recommend that on your very first hire, but I would consider that down the road after you get your feet wet on the first employee. Okay. We are going to set a standard of questions to ensure consistency, and we're going to make sure that we're not asking questions that aren't allowed by law. Got to be careful. Really state dependent, as well as a hint of a blend of federal, but pretty easy to go fishing here when you're a new business owner and you don't know that there are actually limits to what you can ask. Same with the background checks, depending on the state. Okay. I'm going to say those are days 5 through 9 or 10-ish. So by day 9, we only have 14, right? Because we're moving really quick. By day 9, we're actually making a hiring decision. So we're going to evaluate all the information that we gathered from the hiring process. We're going to select the candidate who best aligns with the needs and fits of the company. And I would say we also have a backup. So we don't notify everyone about the decision. We'd notify the top one and then hold on the second one, just in case. I like to have options as a backdrop. Everyone else, politely, nice, thank you for applying, respect their time, and let them know where you're at. We do not need to explain as to why we did not choose them and, get into some, argument about, why you're not moving forward with them. So simple notification, boom, in writing, you're good, move on. And to the top candidate, we want to extend that offer. So you've made that decision. You've meditated on day 9. We're going to say day 10. You're going to contact your top choice and formally offer them the position. You're going to clearly communicate in that job offer, salary, benefits, start date, anything else that's going to be, then formulated into an employment agreement, but any terms of the position. It's not the full employment agreement. This is just like a 1 to 2 page, okay, start date, salary, benefits, anything else we discussed that's like contingent. Maybe they have to give in their notice. I mean, the whole other thing about this 2 weeks notice is that it assumes that your candidate does not actually have to give in some sort of notice and makes any sort of transition. So we are moving on a very fast timeline. Again, 14 days. I love it. I love the tenacity, but I keep using dating analogies because I think they're relevant. You don't want to rush into a marriage, right? Let's assume this employee is going to work with you for a while. You wouldn't, say, oh, I got a 14-day timeline to make this huge decision. I mean, this is obviously being grossly simplified for purposes of making a video. And if I did have to do a quick turnaround, as in, hey, listen, we have so much money and business coming in, I need to cover the gaps. It's not going to be the perfect, most methodical marriage type hire, but it's going to cover all the bases and is being provided by, a business and healthcare attorney. Also, I have 25 staff of my own, so I've done this a few times. Okay, so we have sent out the job offer. I usually like to also send out the draft employment agreement. It's pretty rare that the employee is pushing back at this point. I think there's already probably been a discussion, high level, of the salary that may even be required by law, depending on the size of your business and where you're located. But also, I'm an advocate of just transparency and putting that in the job posting. Here's what it is. Boom, boom, boom. Everything's right there. We're not playing hide the ball, get them in a few interviews and try and win them over and then realize that the salary is not within range. You're just wasting each other's time. So alongside the job offer, we're providing that written employment agreement. And it has the terms of employment. It has all terms that would be required by local state law and potentially a new employee notice if that's required by a local state like Minnesota. Okay, days 11 through 13, we're filling out all that new hire paperwork. The CPA has gotten back to us. They told us which payroll software we're going to use, how we're going to get everything via e-sign or whatever we're going to do. And now we're getting the I-9 employment eligibility verification done. We're doing the W-4 for state and federal tax withholding. We got the new employee notification to the state if required. We got our direct deposit authorization. So we're going to pay them electronically. We're not going to hand them a check old school style unless they choose to do that. And that is a requirement by local state rules. And then they're going to have an employee handbook acknowledgments. They're going to not only have the employment agreement, they're also going to have the handbook, which they are acknowledging your rules of your company. And where you put the benefits, the employment agreement versus the notice versus the handbook, speak to an attorney about that. But you should definitely have an employee handbook. Day 13, you should be preparing for onboarding. So, 11 through 13, they're filling out this new hire paperwork. Okay, great. 13, you're getting ready for that first day, right? Again, we're moving on just such a quick timeline. I'm assuming you went from zero knowledge to first employee. So, we're building the plane as we fly here a little bit. On day 13, we're going to prepare for onboarding. We're going to develop an onboarding plan to integrate your new employee into the team. Team's probably just you at this point, but maybe there's more. Get the workspace, necessary equipment. Maybe there's some software. We need to get them logins to emails, what have you. We're going to get them connected with the payroll provider. They're probably going to have to fill in all their stuff so they can get paid automatically. And then we just want to make sure that we're doing everything right in terms of, legal side of things. What to get them access to do they need a business associate agreement? Probably not as an employee, but would there be other training like HIPAA training that would be required under local or federal law? And then boom, day 14, we did it. We're on to our first day. We're going to have our new employee come, whether that's virtually or remote, and we're going to have a comprehensive orientation where we just train them in. Now, I love to use Loom. I'm using Loom right now to record videos. This is a way you, as a small business owner, you can quickly record. Here's how you do this. You share your screen. You have yourself in the bottom, right. And, cool. You can actually see your processes and share them. And that is, how to set up email, how to use email, how to do this, how to do that. And you can set clear expectations. You can have goals as well as nice, good training, as opposed to every time somebody comes on, somebody else has to come into the virtual room and show them how to do it. That's a waste of time. There should be one best practices and then shared. And then if they forget that training or they're doing it incorrectly, you just show them, hey, you got to rewatch the video. I don't know if that's quarterly, annually, whatever you got to do. If there are any, team members, company culture, specific software, you do that all on the first day. There's probably a lot of shadowing if you're a one-person show, and that's okay. And to receive the return on investment for an employee, it's going to take a little bit of time. How quickly you do that would depend on how much more time you had to prepare, but also your time is valuable as well. So you're weighing a lot of different factors, right? And, one of my biggest regrets is not hiring employees sooner. I use contractors, I use virtual assistants, I use, contract labor, whatever you want to call it. But I wish I would have committed to employees sooner because it helped me grow my business, delegate, and just have more time, wellness, and really run the business better and deliver better quality legal services. So all across the board, it was really just a trust issue. I didn't feel like I could delegate. I kind of wanted to have my hands on everything. I think that everyone thinks that employment law is this big scary thing and it's expensive and the government's going to come to get me. And it's just really not true. I mean, the government should be on the side of the small business owner. Certainly the tax code is written in favor of the small business owner. And I would say, and this is just high level experience, not legal advice, but when I have seen some pretty bad employment law violations outside of, like icky stuff, I'm just going to say like, oh, whoops, we didn't do overtime 100% correct. We didn't do our payment model correctly. We should have done more training. Our PTO was, mismanaged a little bit. First time offenders of that, I have seen government agencies in both Minnesota and California be very lenient on first time offenders where, okay, we could assess all these fines, but really we just want to make the employee whole, like the stuff you should have been paying them anyway, and what all your other small business owners around you have to do. So you need to pay that to get to, neutral, what you should have been at. But in terms of fines that we could levy on top of you, we will waive those. But just please, please, please change your practices. I don't think the government regulators are looking to put small businesses out of business, but they are looking for you to be in compliance with the rules. And I can fully appreciate that getting an attorney to do that can be cost prohibitive, but all the less it is your requirement to do so. That's it for this one. I would just say, closing thoughts, you could definitely automate this with software, with checklists. And I'd strongly recommend just having like a new hire legal checklist. So at least you're hitting just bare minimum tax legal requirements so you can duplicate the process each time. All right. Hope this is helpful. Thank you.